Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Education. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members De Silva, Dahlia, DeLong, Flanagan, Hanson, Hardy, Hunt, Koenig, LaRue Hatch, Mosca, Ornth-Licker, Chair Torres Fawcett.
Welcome to the audience here in Carson City, those joining us in Las Vegas, and those joining us by video conference via YouTube. Please silence all your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door and provide a business card to the committee secretary. So if you have not yet signed in, please make sure you do sign in at the door. There's room for you to sign in, and our committee assistant can support you if you need any additional support. When testifying, please turn in on the microphone. Clearly state your name, spell your name, and state your affiliation, if any, for the record. Then turn the microphone off each time you're done speaking. If you're presenting, please only spell your name the first time. We'll get it after that. Electronic copies should have been submitted to our committee manager by 12 p.m. yesterday for members of the committee, and hard copies will be provided for the public on that table on the left-hand corner for the audience. Members of the public may provide testimony on a bill either in person or by telephone. Please sign the meeting agenda for the telephone number and meeting ID. Meeting agenda and committee information is available on Nellis, which can be accessed through the legislature's website. And if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, it's very popular, so don't forget to subscribe. There's 27 days in session left to become a top subscriber. Public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we do not agree with another person's position. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents throughout the meeting. Please don't view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. The majority of our committee documents and resources are on our laptops here in front of us today. At this time, we are going to go out of order for our bills. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up the hearing on SB 445, which revises provisions relating to the privacy of data concerning pupils. Additionally, we're going to go ahead and go with 20 minutes support, 20 minutes opposition, and 20 minutes neutral. I know that I don't think our first bill has too much public comment, but if it does, we will limit it with 20 minutes, but it'll all be consistent for the next bill as well. So just be aware if there's a lot of people wishing to testify in support or opposition to one of the bills, that we will go 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. At this time, I'll go ahead and invite Senator Taylor to present SB 445.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the Vice Chair and to the Assembly Committee on Education. I am Senator Angie Taylor, and I am the proud representative of Senate District 15 here in Northern Nevada, in Washoe County. Today, I'm here to present Senate Bill 445 for your consideration. This bill is fairly simple. It aims to enhance the privacy and management of student data by providing clear guidelines for storage and dissemination at the state level. A little bit of background quickly. I know there's a big bill coming behind me. In today's digital age, the collection of student data and the use of student data has become integral to improving our state's educational system. While the data is crucial for ensuring accountability, enhancing educational policies, and improving learning outcomes, it does raise legitimate concerns regarding the privacy of that data and the security of that data. Data breaches and the misuse of personal information are becoming all too common nowadays, and unauthorized access to student data can have far-reaching consequences. It can potentially impact students' lives and their academic journeys for a long time. Therefore, it's imperative that we establish robust safeguards to protect this student data. With your permission, Chair, I'll do a quick walk through the bill. Thank you so much. Senate Bill 445 requires Nevada's Department of Education, or NDE, to transfer any student data to its archive no later than 1 year after a student graduates or leaves Nevada's public school system. Prior to the data transfer, NDE must redact all personally identifiable information, not including the birth date of the pupil. But finally, Senate Bill 445 requires NDE to destroy such data 10 years after the pupil turns 22 years old, making sure, oh yeah, I forgot I have slides, but I figured you didn't want them. I'll be honest. Anybody want slides? Okay, all right. To destroy such data 10 years after the student returns 22 or after they leave our system. And that's it, because right now, the Nevada Department of Education keeps the data indefinitely. And that data should not be kept in that manner. So that's it. That's the presentation. That's the bill, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and I stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions? Assemblymember Koenig.
So that
data doesn't include like transcripts or anything like that, right? So if 10, 15 years down the road, you need copies of your high school transcripts, are you still able to get that, or has that been destroyed?
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, that information is kept at the district level and not at the state level. So you would still be able to get it years and years from now if necessary.
Assemblymember Lubber Hodge.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for joining us again. So my question is about the time frame after which the data would be deleted. It's 10 years after they turn 22. I guess I have a two-part question. One, why didn't we just say when they turn 32? And two, why do we need to keep it for that long?
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record. Thank you, Assembly Member. And remember this, that's the recommendation because that's pretty much best practice. And remember, all personally identifiable information is redacted before then, before that information even goes forward. Part of it is when I spoke with Enchi about this, and also as you do research on what students do after they graduate, that's how that information is utilized. But all the personally identifiable information is taken care of after 1 year.
So then I guess my follow-up question is, how do they know to delete it if they don't have that identifying data to know how old the student is and when they need to delete the information?
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record, because they keep track of when the data comes over.
Members, additional questions? I did have a question. I remember a couple years ago, and this might be actually a better question for NDE. I remember that there was so we used to do like the state assessments. What was it called? Proficiencies. We used to have the state proficiencies, and then it was sometime in the 2010s. The state superintendent allowed for students that had not passed the proficiencies then to like retrospectively get their diplomas because we had eliminated the proficiencies as a state. And I knew a number of people that then did retrospectively go and get their diplomas. And that's still in effect of PSA, I guess. If you didn't get your diploma because you didn't pass proficiency, you can go get it now. So how would it, like, how does that data, like, I guess who was responsible for it in that case? And would that program have still been like possible if the state did not have that data?
Senate District, Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair, because that data is still kept at the district level. So it won't be lost, it's kept at the district level.
Thank you. And I do have another follow-up. If somebody from the department is here, can I just hear like why this data is kept right now, or what benefit it has to the state for this data, or if there is no benefit? I see somebody coming up to help you. Thank you.
Peter Zutz, Department of Education, Office of Assessment, Data, and Accountability Management. Would you please repeat the question? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. With the understanding that this data is kept right now, I just want to understand what the value is of this information being stored right now, or if there is no value and it's just a requirement that is expected.
Peter Zutz, thank you. As the Senator said, what we're looking at here is the longitudinal nature of data. Each year, short time ago, 5 years ago, we were talking K-12 data. Then we were talking PK. Then we were talking P20. Now we're talking birth career. The timeline set here, as the Senator mentioned, we're in consultation with NSHE. Currently, what the department is required to do is to provide information on students for research and analysis while protecting their privacy. As stated by the Senator, this data will be anonymized. In other words, the personal information, identifiable information referred to as PII of the students will be removed when it's stored. And again, after a certain period of time, the data will be destroyed. That time period provides the department and researchers and analysts sufficient time to use that data in a beneficial way for student outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. And my understanding is that we actually have a separate bill in this body, and I don't usually try to talk about separate bills when I'm having another bill hearing, but I believe in the Majority Leader's bill, there is like room for NCHE to like be sharing information. And I believe that the intention of that, and I haven't conferred with her, but I believe the intention is for us to be tracking like graduates so that we can follow them through the K through 16 experience. And so would this still give the ability for us to do that, or would this impede then the tracking of this information so that we can see like if students are graduating on time? But if it stops at 22, I'm just wondering if there would be a conflict, or if that's not a concern at this time.
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. It wouldn't impede that because that specific information is still kept at the district level, and this is really more the longitudinal, not what happened to each individual student, but what are those trends and so on.
Okay, thank you. And I think I have another question from Assemblymember Lower Hatch.
Thank you for another shot. So my question is just what is this data? Is this Infinite Campus data? Is this the reports that are being sent from the districts? Is it everything? I just want a clearer idea of where this data is coming from.
Peters, that's for the record. Thank you for that question. It is Infinite Campus data. For those of you who don't know, Infinite Campus, or IC, is a statewide student information system. It's a consistent system used in each district to collect data in a consistent manner. What we're talking about here are student records, and anything in a student record falls under FERPA protection. Some of it might even include some HIPAA considerations. The short answer is that's exactly what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I don't see any additional questions at this time. Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you, Mr. Zetz. Andy never knows when they're going to get called in here. They have to be ready all the time. It's extra fun. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to come testify in support of SB 445. As a reminder, please state and spell your name for the record.
Dawn Echeverry, ETCHEVERRY, President, Nevada State Education Association. We thank the maker for bringing it, and we stand in support with the bill.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Susan Keema, Keema, Executive Director for the Nevada Association of School Superintendents, and we're testifying in support of SB 445. Thank you.
Stephen Dolan, on behalf of myself in particular, and also the Friends of Third Creek up at the North Shore at Lake Tahoe. Thank you, Chair and Assembly members, for listening to this bill. And thank you, Senator Taylor, for presenting it. It's a concept that's been studied at length throughout Washoe County, and it's time for this to really take hold in terms of limiting the access to student data. I like that it has a handle to a certain degree on Infinite Campus and many of the other aspects going through our students' data and history and future. So I am in favor of this bill, and thank you very much for listening to it.
Virginia Starrett. I'm a retired English professor from a university in California, and I'm a part of Protect Nevada Children, and we are very excited that this bill is coming forward to this group, and we do thank the senator for bringing it. We have been concerned about privacy issues for student data for quite a while. I brought with me an article from the March Education Week saying Chicago District runs latest with breach data. It is very common these days for schools somehow to be hit and to have their data stolen. I liked the question saying, what is this data? Is it Infinite Campus? Is it something else? I think to think that it's only their scores on tests is a wrong assumption. This has health data that can be breached. It has discipline issues that can be breached. It has teachers' opinions of students that can be breached. It has a lot of information in it, family situations, family dynamics that can be in this data. And it doesn't take that many points of data for even data made anonymous to figure out who that actual student is. So we should be working overtime, it would seem to me, in our legislatures to protect our students' data, since it is all very personal data that can end up in this system. So I urge you to take this first step in at least eliminating this data from being available forever. Now, at least it's only available for 32 years, according to this bill, through the state. So please vote yes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. We are very pleased to be able to support this bill. We don't have that many opportunities to support bills, so we're very glad to do it. We're also continue to be concerned about student data and privacy. We think this is a good first step, but we think there's a lot of additional things that need to be done, as you just heard my friend here present. And we need to be aware of how vulnerable our students are with all the information that's in Infinite Campus. We need to be aware that there are breaches around the United States and that we need to be very, very concerned and careful about that student data and have great respect in how we treat it. And I appreciate the opportunity to support this bill as a good first step. Thank you.
John Eppolito, Protect Nevada Children. On February 6th, I asked this committee if there was anyone who would support a bill to start deleting Infinite Campus insane data. The day before, February 5th, I asked the Senate Education Committee the same question. Thank you, Senator Taylor, for SB 445, which would start deleting sane data. And she explained it, so I'm going to skip that part. Question. What happens to all the data on kids who have graduated since SANE came into existence over the last 12 years or so? I guess that'll be within 1 year. That will be the personally identifiable information will be removed. But I haven't seen that directly. Assemblymember LaRue Hatch, Infinite Campus is the much larger database. SANE is just a subset of Infinite Campus. And that's what's most problematic is Infinite Campus. So we don't touch that this session, but it is my hope. And by the way, the problem with Infinite Campus is it's a lot of data that's not related to education. Discipline, minor discipline, MTSS, medical, counseling, psychiatric, and a lot of that data is subjective. Teachers have been entering subjective data in Infinite Campus. Psychologists have, counselors have for a long time. Some of them are not comfortable doing that. Those are the ones who contact me from time to time. I realize Infinite Campus has 5 paid lobbyists here this session. 2 sessions ago, they only had 1. What we really need to start working on, hopefully for next session, is deleting the Infinite Campus data. This is a massive database. If you're in Washoe County School District, you can go to protectnevadachildren.org. We estimate probably 500 to 600 pages of data, and a lot of it has nothing to do with education by the time a kid graduates high school. That's Infinite Campus. That's what we need to start getting rid of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ippolito. And please, if you have time, make sure you reach out to the Infinite Campus lobbyists so you can confer with them on that for next session. At this time, is there anyone else in support here in Carson City? I don't see any, and I don't see any in Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 445?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 445, please press star 9 now to join the queue.
So this is Yolanda Canuck, Yolanda, last name Knaak. I am 100% in support of this bill. It's at least a step in the right direction. I think we need a lot more work on this issue. And thank you very much. Please vote yes.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller ending in 105, please press star 6 to unmute yourself and begin when ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Chapman, LYNNCHAPMAN, and I'm the state treasurer for the Independent American Party. And we are in agreement with this bill. We feel it's a good bill. It's a good first step. But we also agree that Infinite Campus has to go. So if we can at least get this part through, we can start working next session and cleaning up the rest. So we are in support, and thank you very much.
Hi, hi. My name is Katrin Ivanov, Ivan Frank, and I'm in strong support of the bill. I'm glad that something finally we're talking about a bill that's going to help Nevadans, especially Nevada's kids, because they are our future, and we need to protect them, and we definitely need to protect their information. Please vote yes on the bill. Thank you, and have a lovely day.
Chair, there are no additional callers for support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, do I have anyone wishing to testify in opposition to SB 445? I don't see any in Carson, nor do I see any in Las Vegas. ABH, is there anyone online?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide opposition testimony.
Thank you. Is anyone wishing to testify neutral? Seeing none here in Carson or in Las Vegas. ABH, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll go ahead and invite the bill sponsor for any closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Angie Taylor, Senate District 15. For the record, I just want to thank the chair, the vice chair, and the committee for giving me the honor of presenting this bill. This bill tries to strike that balance between educational information that's important for learning and also safeguarding the information for students. So I urge you to support Senate Bill 445. Thank you so much.
Thank you. At this time, I will go ahead and close the hearing on SB 445, and we will go ahead and open the hearing on SB 305. I believe this bill sponsor is here. Please begin when you're ready. And I see our legal counsel all by himself in Las Vegas. Thank you for joining us. He waved. I think we're going to have 20 questions for legal now.
All right,
we're just
so
preparing
students
them.
in Henderson are getting...
One moment. Just some IT things. But I know we have an overflow room, but there has been a number of seats opened up here in the Carson City room. So if you're in the overflow room, we have probably about 20 seats that have opened if people want to come in to this room. All right, and Senator, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to the members of the Assembly Committee on Education. For the record, my name is Fabian Duñate, and I'm proud to represent Senate District 10 in the heart of Las Vegas. Today, we are here to present Senate Bill 305, a bill that is committed to building Nevada's future, of course, and growing lacrosse in our state. Today, I am joined by Mr. Speaker, Paul Speaker, who is the CEO of Desert Dogs and the San Diego Seals. I'm going to just go quickly over just the bill provisions, but most of the presentation is from Paul, and so I'm going to just go over it really quickly. So SB 305 is an act relating to interscholastic activities, requiring the Nevada Interscholastic Activities Association to adopt regulations that set forth the process for the association to designate a sanctioned sport. It provides certain requirements for such regulations and requiring the association to publish such regulations on an internet website maintained by the association and to provide other matters properly relating thereto. A bit of the background on this bill. As we know, lacrosse has been one of the fastest growing team sports in the United States over the last few decades, with high school participation increasing by 528% from 1990 to 2008. As of 2017, more than 42,500 athletes were participating in the NCAA lacrosse, marking a 60% growth since 2006. Additionally, the International Olympic Committee has approved lacrosse's inclusion in the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, and this surge in participation highlights the increasing popularity and competitiveness of sports nationwide. The bill requires the NIAA to adopt and publish regulations for designating and governing sanctioned sports in public schools. Specifically, it must establish a process to designate a sport as sanctioned. It sets clear standards and rules for sanctioned sports, and to prioritize the upgrading of club sports to sanctioned status. And of course, that the regulations must be in place by October 1st, 2025. A little bit about the background before I turn it over to Mr. Speaker. So I did not anticipate this bill receiving as much attention that it has received, and most of it has been pretty warming. I think that although I never played lacrosse, I have never participated in the sport. I think that there's a lot of momentum, not just from the community level, but from the advocacy as well, where folks who have never participated in the political process are really engaged, and you'll hear from some of our students today as to why this is important to them. And so, without further ado, I would like to go ahead and pass it over to Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator. Chair Torres-Ferret and the rest of the Assembly members, I appreciate being here. My name is Paul Speaker, S-P-E-A-K-E-R, for the record. I'm the CEO of both the San Diego Seals in San Diego as well as the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, and a consultant to Josai Sports. Just wanted to walk through a little bit of, sorry. I think that one of the things that we really like to talk about is the growth of lacrosse nationally, and the opportunities that provides to young people. I think one of the questions a lot around athletics is, are we making sure that we're considering everybody in that process? And just so that you guys know, that lacrosse is North America. Dates back to the 12th century. It's the oldest team sport created by the indigenous North Americans. There's been about a 22.6% increase in girls' teams nationally, an 18.3% increase in boys' teams since 2018. So you see actually the growth of those on both gender side. The Western states are one of the fastest growing fastest growing regions. So there was a predominant growth in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s on the East Coast. Mark Riccio is here with me, who present a little bit more of that detail. But there has been a massive increase over the last about 10 to 12 years on this side of the Mississippi, specifically in Utah and California, that sanctioned high school varsity lacrosse in 2016 as it relates to California, and then Utah followed suit in 2024. I'll talk a little bit about the benefits of that as we go forward. I know that Senator Taylor mentioned slides. We only have about 9 or 10, so it's not going to be that cumbersome. So there's been a tremendous amount of increase in college as well. We've seen a 97% increase in growth in women's teams and 60% growth in men's teams since 2000. New college programs have been added for women at San Diego State because of that sanctioning, and for men at University of Utah. Currently in Nevada, the University of Nevada, Reno is the only college with a club program. Passing this bill will no doubt influence colleges like UNLV to look at adding lacrosse to their roster of sports, keeping athletes in Nevada who are participating at a high school level. The next slide, thank you. Mark.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the Assembly for hearing us out today. So my name is Mark Riccio, M-A-R-C-R-I-C-C-I-O. I'm the CEO of USA Lacrosse. So where do we fit into this whole situation? So we're the governing body for the sport. We represent 420,000 members across the U.S., and those are generally athletes, players, coaches, officials, and program leaders. And we provide the tools, resources, education, curriculum, safety, all those materials that are executed at the local level in local lacrosse programs. And part of our mission is around fueling the growth and ensuring that those resources are utilized at the local level. So I'm going to share just 4 slides, 3 quick themes: momentum, opportunity, and impact. The first slide you see here is lacrosse will be in the Olympics. First time in 100 years, the men will compete in the Olympics. First time ever, the women will compete. So we are an Olympic sport. That has provided tremendous momentum. Out of that, we've launched a coalition of lacrosse leaders. You see the logos there. There's college coaches, pro sports, to double lacrosse participation by the end of the decade. That is an unprecedented platform between a governing body and all key sport property holders. And so that has provided us tremendous momentum. In terms of opportunity, you see here some of the impact in the state of Nevada. There is an infrastructure in the state. With all due respect, it's a bit fragmented, and it does lag behind some of your peers, say Utah as an example. In a 2022 National Survey of Children's Health, children age 6 to 17 participated, 46% of those children participated in sport in the state of Nevada. That was second to last. Utah, as a counterpart, ranked 16 with over 60% of those children in those ages participating in sport. It is important to note Utah is a sanctioned high school lacrosse state. But I also want to stress there is an infrastructure within the state, and that is very important in terms of growth, continuity, and capability to thrive as a sport. In terms of impact, there's some very impressive numbers here. We've talked earlier about youth sport and its positive impact on kids, communities, physical health, mental well-being, and you see through those independent statistics, lacrosse punches above its weight in terms of impact. In a post-COVID environment now more than ever, where investment in kids and communities, lacrosse is an incredibly effective tool to have positive outcomes. So this last slide, I want to bring it all together. There's tournaments that happen already. These playing opportunities happen within the state. And these things bring together all of those elements of momentum, opportunity, and impact. And providing an infrastructure for lacrosse at the high school level, we feel will be a tremendous opportunity to fuel this continued growth, expand even on the opportunities that we have today, and have even greater impact.
Your mic. Thank you.
Apologize. Paul Speaker, for the record. I just wanted to go back and talk for a second and hit on one of the things that Mark said very quickly that was on a slide. From the Healthy Sports Index, the Aspen Institute showed that girls participating in lacrosse ranked highest in these areas. Number 1 in self-esteem. Number 2 in social support. Number 2 in graduating from college. And number 2 in health under psychosocial. College women's lacrosse players had 99% graduation rate. 28% boys, 51% girls that played high school lacrosse had an academic value of grade point average that was higher than anybody else in the school. So it is very important that when we talk about connectivity, we talk about the value that we provide in community, we're going to talk about what we have done as the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, but it does not go without mentioning we're building 4th and 5th graders to become high school players. We need to catch them when they're there so that we can actually move them to the value that is provided by lacrosse. So we do at the Desert Dogs, we formed in 2022. Joe Tsai is one of the owners with Wayne Gretzky, Dustin Johnson, Steve Nash. We've been a long-term commitment to Nevada and growing the lacrosse community. We do it very specifically in free camps and clinics. We are committed to educating and training youth through our free clinics and summer camps. We started the first 2-sport camp called Camp 99 with a partnership with Wayne Gretzky and the Golden Knights, where youth play in the morning hockey and in the afternoon lacrosse. Other kids come in the morning and play lacrosse and go in the afternoon and play hockey. It's a great program for them to learn those sports. We've had several free clinics over the past 3 years, and we're committed to making lacrosse more accessible in Nevada. So kind of where we kind of, I guess, the sticks hit the road, we have a program called Sticks for Success. The Desert Dogs implemented the Sticks for Success program, and through this, we visited over 40 schools, and we've only been around for 3 years, so 40 schools in order to teach, so not just kids to get them excited, but actually teach PE teachers and athletic directors how to teach the game to 4th and 5th graders and 6th graders so that they pick it up, enjoy it, and then start to get involved. Players and staff have introduced the game of lacrosse to over 7,000 students through this program, and we're committed to working with local community leaders to expand and improve the current recreational resources through building new lacrosse-focused complexes to make the sport more accessible for youth in Nevada. So we're there literally to create opportunities for the youth to not only get excited about lacrosse, but have an opportunity to be trained, to be educated, and to participate. A lot of times we talk about kind of the economic growth of these situations and what we're implementing. Nevada can truly be a hub for lacrosse, and this bill is a step in that right direction. Nevada has huge potential to grow lacrosse around the youth opportunities. With expanded infrastructure and organized leagues, more tournaments, training facilities, and camps will be generated. This is happening in all your brethren states that actually have lacrosse sanctioned. With this sanction, teams will be able to travel to Nevada to play high school teams in Nevada. They'll be able to travel to California to play high school teams in California. They cannot do that now because they're not sanctioned sports. It's also an opportunity for kids to have a state championship which is really a great opportunity for kids to celebrate their high school and their time there. It's an opportunity for them to be looked at in a different vein from colleges that are looking at scholarship programs. And we might, coming out of Nevada, we might create new pros. We might create new people that represent our country in the Olympics. So in closing, I support the bill. As a parent of 4 daughters, I've seen the explosion of women's sports in California, especially on the girls' side. Passing this bill will give young Nevada women the same opportunity to compete at the highest levels and help young men pursue their dreams at the same time. So thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chair Fabian Nyacha, for the record. So just really quickly, that concludes the remarks for our presentation. You may have noticed that there is a conceptual amendment that has been uploaded on Nellis, and so we're happy to answer any questions regarding the amendment or the reprint of the bill provisions. And so we stand ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Can you do a brief walk through the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Fabian Nyacha for the record. So really quickly, the bill, as you may see, is under a current reprint. And if you give me a second, I'm just going to pull it up. I had it loaded. So if you're looking at the reprint of the bill, so Section 1 is just a standard language that we use. Section 2 of the bill requires that the NIAA, which is of course the authority that the association that does the sanctioning for high school sports, that they have to set forth regulations adopted pursuant to this section, including what it would take to get a sport sanctioned, and it establishes a certain guidelines in terms of the rules governing the eligibility of participation in such a sanctioned sport, the rules for competition, establishing the length of a season, and so forth. And so that section of the bill essentially would establish the ability for any particular sport to understand if there was a club, a group of individuals in the community that wanted to get a sport sanctioned, that there's a clear and accessible information that's accessible to them on the internet as to how they can become sanctioned as a sport. The amendment essentially replicates that and allows lacrosse to go through the sanctioning process if this bill were to get passed. So that would mean that if we adopt the conceptual amendment along with the bill provisions, that the NIAA within a certain time frame would be required to sanction lacrosse, and as well as create the regulations for other sports to come forward and get sanctioned. So that's essentially the bill provisions. We recognize that there has been difficulty with the community in terms of getting answers as to how this process is transparent, and so this was what we believed was necessary, not just for lacrosse, but for other sports as well.
Thank you. And so just to clarify, with the amendment, it does sanction lacrosse as a sport, and then also creates a process for any other sports that were to request to be sanctioned. Is that correct?
David and Nunter, for the record, that's correct. They would still have to go through, the NIA would, of course, have to promulgate the rules and requirements of competition and so forth for lacrosse, so it still gets the ball moving to sort of say for that space, but it also would allow them to create a process that's transparent for everyone else, for any other sport.
Thank you. I just wanted that clarification before we get into the questions from the committee. So thank you so much for your presentation and for covering the net academic and economic opportunity. I know that we are cradling a new idea with this idea of sanctioning lacrosse, so I expect a few questions. So members, thank you for catching the lacrosse funds. I appreciate it. Members, any questions at this time? I'm just going to kind of I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if I have a pun. I'm trying to get my goal, if that's what you're doing, lacrosse. But I would be remiss if I ignored the conversations we've had where people are concerned about sanctioning lacrosse specifically versus sanctioning any other sport. And you might have alluded to it, but just a tad bit more clarification on how this plays out if lacrosse is specifically mentioned, and what's the reason that you feel the need it needs to be specifically mentioned rather than the NIAA set up the process and then you go through the process to have lacrosse qualify versus any other sport qualify. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman Fabian Nanyate, for the record. So I want to take maybe just a brief background as to why we're here today. So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I have never played lacrosse. I have never stepped on sat on the field, not yet, maybe in a couple months or a couple weeks from now. But this is fairly new to me, right? I did not play in competitive sports in high school, and I would admit to that, right? I was in different types of competitions, more academic competitions, but this is new for me as well. But what I recognized was it was interesting to me when I heard that we have a professional sports team in our state, and yet the students in our state can't participate in that professional, or not professional, but they cannot participate in that similar sport at the high school level. And so when I started to ask the question as to why is that, right? It's been because for years, and we're talking decades, the lacrosse community here in our state has been advocating for the process of getting sanctioned, and the NIAA has refused to do so. And the rationality for that is, as we were digging through some of the questions as to why hasn't this happened, right? What is the process for that? It's because prior to this bill, there was no process in terms of what it would take to get a sanctioned sport. And so essentially, not to make a lacrosse pun, but the goalpost was moved, right? We didn't know what it would take to actually reach the milestones in terms of adequately getting a sport sanctioned so that students can participate at the high school level. And so the bill provisions, right now establish that lacrosse as a community, right, because these folks came to the legislature, have advocated for this issue as personal to them, and they have fundraised money to start with the offsetting the costs to begin with. We felt that it was necessary, essentially, to have the NIA still develop the process as part of the conceptual amendment. But we also recognize that lacrosse is only one sport, and there are other club sports that would like the same opportunity, and it's important for transparency that everyone has the equal level playing field. And so that's why we're coming back with the changes that we are talking about today.
Madam Chair, may I have a quick follow? So, Senator, thank you for that. And in line with those changes, then, if we were to look at a piece of legislation that specifically names a sport, what would you say to us that will do for the desire for other sports to be specifically named, and what does that create? What kind of precedent will that set for, will they need to always come back and ask, can they be added to this, or is it sufficient to set up the regulations and then lacrosse and any other sport move forward?
Sure, and thank you so much for that question, Fabian Iñate, for the record. So I think the main consideration that we have to have with this conversation is that the frustrations that we're going to hear from the testimony is because there's been an inaction from an entity that is responsible for caretaking not just the rules and regulations as to how this sport or how other sports are played, but there's a lack of action, right? I guess to some extent, right, there could be an argument made if there are going to be other sports that are going to come forward and ask members of the legislature to enact certain provisions, right, to do similar to what we're establishing. My response to that is, as members of the legislature, it's our responsibility to respond to the needs of the constituents of our state. And if many of our constituents are asking us to take action to provide some level of transparency, then that's fair game, right? I think that's why we're here. We're here to respond to the needs of our constituents. And if this is of relevance and we believe that it could help in some way, not just improve the lives of our students in terms of participation in mental health, but also there's an economic portion of this bill, right, where by doing so, we're not just aligning to a professional sports that we have in our state, but also encouraging other folks to travel and participate in our economy. I think that's also a benefit that we can consider. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. At this time, I'll pass the mic to Assemblymember Lily Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. I have similar questions and concerns about naming one sport only in statute. So my question is, I noticed in the reprints that in the Senate, lacrosse was taken out, and it was passed through the Senate without lacrosse in there. And so I just wondered if you could speak to what were the discussions on the Senate side, why was it taken out, and why are we putting it back in?
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman Fabian Iñate, for the record. That was not my amendment, and so it was what we needed to do to get the bill passed. But in speaking with the community, we felt that it was necessary to at least ensure that the lacrosse community was heard. And in speaking with some of the committee members, that's why we're proposing the amendment that we have here today.
Thank you. And I did have the chance to review the work session document from the Senate, and I didn't see that lacrosse was taken out. So my understanding is it was a floor amendment that was done later, but the committee in the Senate Education did vote on it with lacrosse in. It's my understanding.
Fabian Iñárritu, for the record, that is correct. If you reflect on the work session document that came out of committee, it did reference lacrosse. It was removed as part of a floor amendment that came out right before the deadline.
Thank you. Assemblymember Hanson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for being here. Full disclosure, I'm the grandmother of 24, and several of those play lacrosse. But I'm also a legislator, so this is really, I'm going to kind of think out loud. I'm supportive of what you're trying to do. I realize you've worked really hard for years trying to work around maybe some non-responsive ways of getting this done. And so I'm here now as a legislator where we typically have a history that we don't put in statute specific. Sometimes we leave that to the regulatory process. And I think this is a really good learning opportunity for our youth to hear what we deal with here. We can be so on support of this, but then we might have some legislative angst over either the language or the impact to school districts, that sort of thing. There's a lot of things we have to weigh. So where I am with this, and I've been following it, is there a way for us to accomplish this? Because I really do want this to happen and still be true to legislative language where we're not as specific. We let the regulatory process play out. I'm wondering if there's something we can do here to give you, the supporters, and I would consider myself a supporter of the bill to a certain extent, the comfort that we would deal with this in the regulatory process, that lacrosse would be first in line, rightfully so, because they've done the heavy lift, and not necessarily tie it in statute. Again, I'm throwing this out. That's maybe not kosher to have us kind of vet this idea that I'm throwing out, but just trying to let you know where I'm coming from. Is this a deal breaker for me? I can't say that it is, but I do think for legislative history, it's important to have this discussion on the record. I just don't know if the mechanism I don't like what happened, the amendments, we know how they work around here, and it's a little bit sometimes unsettling that things happen like that. So actually, I'm really just more having a discussion. Is there something we can do here to give you comfort if lacrosse was left out as a specific thing in statute, to give you an assurance that in regulation, we would see lacrosse be first in line? And I am on legislative commission, which deals with regulations. I don't know if I'll still be there, but I know that it would be my intent to make sure that that would happen, but just trying to find a way to make this work and not cause undue harm to, some jurisdictions, and also be true to legislative language. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Senator. Paul Speaker, for the record, if you're okay for me to respond, and again, in the idea of having kind of open dialogue. I think one of the takeaways for me on the language of the bill and all the things that the Senator said about us making sure that we're aligned with where kind of the zeitgeist of where most states are. When you have a professional sports team, there usually is a collection of things that occur. And some of those are us giving back to the community to make sure that we're growing and participating in the sport. I think it's really important to represent that this is not a mandate for schools. This doesn't cause schools to have lacrosse. This creates a program that they can tie into so that when parents want to have their schools adapt, they can come in and participate. So it's a sanction of a sport. It's not a mandate of a sport. So if a school body does not believe that their constituent, their kids, want to play lacrosse, they just pass. But if not, the kids that do want to play lacrosse, if history's a teacher, they're going to wait 10, 12, 15, 20 years. That puts them from 7th grade into like having their own children. And it doesn't seem fair to me, these kids right now who actually are supporting this and supported us last time we were here, it doesn't seem fair that we wait another 15 years for them to be 33 years old going, oh, I wish I played lacrosse in high school. I wish I had the opportunity to play lacrosse in high school so that I could play lacrosse in college. And I was in a club program that I couldn't get out of class 15 minutes or 20 minutes early for an away game like every other sport. I couldn't get on a bus that was paid for. My parents had to drive me. They had to leave work early. I didn't get any kind of opportunity for us to have those things that teachers provide, whether that's, do your homework on the bus, do all those. They didn't get any of that. And they've been playing club sports and lacrosse in spite of it. And it seems to me, if you're not mandating somebody to do something and you're giving them the opportunity and the ramp to actually provide that opportunity, then why would you stand in the way? The second piece of that is that every other sport can draft across this sport to say, now I know the process. I don't have to wait 10, 15 years, I don't have to wait 20 years. I actually know the process to follow, that I can have legislation sanction the sport that my kids want to play in school and not wait 15 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, this time I'd like to go to legal to give a little bit more history about, with respect to this policy and some of the statements brought up by Assemblymember Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So generally, generally, the Assembly member is correct that the legislature does not tend to get into this level of specificity. Certainly with respect to the NIAA, there's no existing law under Chapter 385B of NRS that speaks to any particular sport. That's generally something that's left to the NIAA through its regulatory process. That said, there's nothing constitutionally prohibiting the legislature from putting something like that into law. It's just generally not something that the legislature has chosen to do in the past. With respect to the regulatory process, it's not unusual for the legislature to include transitory language in the back of the bill. So that's the black language that appears at the back that doesn't get codified into NRS, but that can be used to direct agencies to take certain actions. It's not unusual for the legislature, when it sees an issue of particular concern that would normally happen through an agency's regulatory process, to include transitory language in a bill directing the agency to take a particular action with respect to a particular issue within a particular period of time. So looking at this conceptual amendment, that's kind of how I would envision it being drafted, is that this would be transitory language included in the back of SB 305, which would direct the NIAA by a certain time to either consider the designation of lacrosse as a sanctioned sport, or to adopt regulations that do designate lacrosse as a sanctioned sport. That would be a policy decision for the committee, but generally in the past, when similar issues have been presented to the legislature, the way it's addressed them has been through the adoption of a transitory provision, directing the agency responsible for the regulatory process to take action on that issue by a certain time.
Thank you. That was helpful. Assembly Member DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. I think legal counsel just hit a goal, but I'll take the pass, stick handle it with a slightly different play. Senator, since you believe it's important to put a single sport as a sanctioned sport in statute, and the NIAA currently has in regulation a list of sanctioned sports, why didn't you consider putting all those in, since those have already been identified as sanctioned? Not that I agree with that approach, but I want to hear your thought process on that.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Fabian Doñate, for the record. That's an excellent recommendation that I would probably take offline. That was recommended to me a few days ago, and so certainly that is an option, and we'll also explore the one that legal just mentioned to us, so that maybe it's not directly codified in state law, but it still allows the agency to follow through with the mandate as intended by the legislature. So I think we can probably talk offline in terms of post-hearing.
Thank you. And I'm just going to be very honest, and I think I've expressed this concern before, that the NIAA, I think, has been obnoxiously difficult to work with for different organizations and for school leaders and for, sports and different clubs and organizations that are trying to do things like sanction sports. The fact that this has to be a law, I think, is frustrating. A process to sanction sport should already exist. So the fact that the NIAA has not done this and that lacrosse has been, my understanding, has been trying to do this for several years now, stresses the importance of us just making sure that they are considered, because the reality is that I have seen the NIAA may be retaliatory towards organizations and schools and groups and sometimes students. And I think that this is one way that they could be retaliatory towards an entire sport because they're frustrated that you all came to the legislative building and asked for you to be sanctioned. So I think it's actually very imperative that we have this consideration and that there is some way that they're included, because I can definitely foresee a process where the NIAA drags this out, just like we have had in other conversations from this body. So I think that's important. I'll go ahead and pass it to Assemblymember De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. Just a real quick question from the South, coming from CCSD. I'm a school teacher myself and coached several sports down in the Las Vegas area. So if this bill were to pass with the conceptual amendment, what kind of an impact would it have, you believe, in your visionary sort of perspective on CCSD?
In response, Paul Speaker, for the record, there's many opportunities that kids are not receiving, and I think some of them are financial, just resources. So if you don't have a mom or a dad that can drive you to practice and you don't have a bus, you can't participate. So you pick another sport. If you don't have high school sports that can catch a kid after 6th or 7th and 8th grade that he's developed skills in a club, he may decide, I'm actually just going to switch sports, play something else. If there is no opportunity for high school, those kids don't participate, and they actually decide to play a sport even in 5th and 6th grade, which means that you load up football, you load up basketball, you load up field hockey. And those kids that are now competing in those sports are less likely to actually have an opportunity to go to college on a lacrosse scholarship. The other piece of that is that, very simply, you can't, where many scouts go to tournaments, where many scouts actually go to watch California play Utah, California play Massachusetts, you're not participating in those. So where there's a tremendous amount of opportunity is that you get an opportunity to be showcased. And the other piece is that you don't have video equipment, you don't have a scouting system, you don't have a recruitment system. It's not part of the vernacular in school for your representation for those students in the normal guidance counselor situation, where they're represented and said, hey, listen, why don't we go to Brown University this weekend? Because I sent a tape over and Brown wants to talk to you about lacrosse. Because the club sports, the guidance counselor is not even aware who's playing. It's not participatory at all through the school. So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunities for youth to participate, and there's an opportunity for companies like mine to actually come back in and say, okay, where can we be helpful in providing sticks, providing resources? USA Lacrosse in their Elevate 28 program, where they're actually funding programs at school. So in 4th and 5th and 6th grade, all of those resources, they go to places where there is an opportunity for us to grow athletes longer term than just in 5th and 6th grade. So I think there's a plethora of opportunities, most importantly to the kids, most importantly to the youth, to have those resources in school. And again, if a mom and dad cannot afford to drive a kid to a tournament or to a club program, they probably can't afford cleats, they can't afford sticks, they can't afford balls. It's costly to have your kid participate in a sport, and many people do it because the ROI is college. Many people do it because the ROI is they have something to do after school all the time. It's a fraternity, it's a sorority, it's the opportunity to participate. It's a great way for you to say, okay, my kids are healthy, they're safe, and I feel really great about the kids that they're participating with. And I think that I don't know what the ROI is in that, but man, it seems to be very important to me as a father of 4 daughters.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for that explanation. I also wanted to invite, if it's okay with you, Chair, CCSD's representative. I know he's in the back there, to also weigh in and give his
Keating,
thoughts.
our favorite. He's so excited.
Give his
He's
thoughts
been
on
waiting for this moment.
the logistics of how this would be implemented.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Brad Keating, for the record, Clark County School District. So a few things. I think SB 305, we've heard it from the committee. We've talked about this at length. I think it goes a long way in ensuring that the NIAA continues to hear the community and move forward on issues that they need to.
I know Mr. Jackson's listening right now, and he'll be speaking later today. But I do think we need to put NIAA in a position of responding to their constituents and hearing what we say in Southern Nevada or Northern Nevada. As it relates to this, I think based on the conceptual amendment that Senator walked through, really it puts all the onus on the NIAA. At that point, once the NIAA creates their regulations, then they go out to school districts and they ask schools and districts if they want to participate or if they don't want to. Districts can decide based on financial reasons, or we just don't have enough students at a certain campus that we can't participate. I think all of that work needs to be done by NIAA to determine how many schools would even participate moving forward. But I think it's a good first step in moving forward to ensure that we're listening to our students every single day and hearing them out. I'll give you a personal story. As an educator in the Clark County School District at West Career and Technical Academy, I had a student of mine at West CTA who played lacrosse at a club program at Palo Verde because we didn't have a program. It would have been great at that time to be able to utilize and have counselors looking at grades and doing those checks at the time to ensure that everything was moving forward. I think that's a huge benefit to moving forward in an NIAA capacity. It's just making sure that we do it right and that the NIAA is there to partner with all of us to ensure that whatever sport we put in place, whether it's lacrosse or anything else, that we do it the correct way and that we're not speeding up a process and we're not missing anything. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Assembly Member Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's probably good. You are there, Mr. Keating. My question has to do with if this comes online, schools. So, like, if it's sanctioned, would they be required? Does it become an option at the district level? Like, what do you see? Because there's cost, there's support. How viable? What are we looking at to do that part?
Brad Keating for the record, and our team is currently reviewing and trying to determine the fiscal impact of starting a team at every school. So we're working on that right now, determining how many balls and sticks and all that fun stuff you need that these experts around me know a lot quicker than I would ever know. But once the NIAA, my understanding is once the NIAA regulates the sport, it then goes to the districts to make a determination if they want to participate or not. For instance, the Clark County School District, it's a regulated sport, but we do not participate in skiing. The Washoe County School District has chosen not to participate in bowling, but that's a regulated sport. So it would really come down to the decision at the district level on how we would want to be involved and how large the involvement in is. The only sticking point that has to get figured out with NIAA is there are tournaments and playoffs and all of that. Obviously, you need enough teams across the state to be able to do that. So that's where the NIAA would need to figure out how to maneuver those things. But it is a cost on either the student or the district to be able to pay for the equipment. I know we are incredibly fortunate. I didn't get a chance to say this, but the Desert Dogs have been incredible partners of the Clark County School District. We do amazing things every day, from Native American heritage opportunities with kiddos, doing things to teacher of the games, to all that stuff. And they've donated huge amounts of equipment and tools to us. And I know they will continue to do that. But we do know, no matter what, there will be a cost to run any type of sport.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And quick follow-up. I think you might answer my question because it was going to be the ability to receive grants and gifts and things of that nature from private entities to support this effort on the behalf of the families and that type of outreach. But you kind of touched on that, so.
Brad Keating, we do have the ability at the school district to receive those private grants and then align them towards whatever initiative they need to go to.
Thank you. I think that's all our questions for CCSD right now. So, it looks like we have another. Assemblymember Koenig, don't leave so fast.
I tried to go through the vice chair, but that didn't seem to work. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Senator, for this bill. I'm pro lacrosse. I have a daughter who's fairly athletic and actually played high school soccer and then joined a club for lacrosse in college. And she called and told me she was playing lacrosse, and I was like, my thought of lacrosse is lots of checking and throwing hard balls at each other. And I actually went and watched, and the girls don't check quite as much or as hard. And she could do the thing and run with the ball, and I was pretty impressed that she learned that just after she left high school. So I do appreciate lacrosse a little bit. I also want to say, I spent time on the NIA board, and that's probably the board that takes the most shade of any other board in this committee. I'm like, it's been 10 or 12 years ago, so maybe the culture has completely changed, but I think I've proven in this body that I'm mostly reasonable, and we didn't sit around on the NIA board and see how we could punish and make kids' lives miserable. So my question to you is, without this bill and without actually mandating the NIA to come up with regulations and processes to make a club sport, sanctioned, without adding in the specific words of lacrosse, do you feel that they, after doing this, wouldn't include lacrosse? Or is actually putting the name in there completely necessary of something that might happen without it?
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Fabian Doñate, for the record. That's an excellent question. I think that there's several considerations. The first is, I want to start back that the bill, there's a discussion of autonomy of the NIA, which obviously will come up in the testimony. But I want to be clear that the bill still requires the NIAA to prescribe the regulations. We're not codifying that into state law. I could have introduced a bill that wrote the rules and regulations and put that into a process versus letting the NIAA decide. But we didn't do that, right? Like, we're still preserving their autonomy to be able to determine what the rules and regulations are and go through that process, right? The second portion of that is, I think from the community, it was important that there has to be an onus or a requirement that they have to fulfill, and that the NIAA is not going to drag their feet, right? Traditionally, from conversations that we've had with them, it takes about anywhere between 2 to 4 years before a sport can get sanctioned. And so we don't want to be in a point where we pass this bill, nothing happens because we didn't mention, whether it's in the transitory language or in some other form of the amendment, that we didn't mention lacrosse. And so now the NIA can say, okay, well, because you guys went to the legislature and you acted this way, we're just going to take our time to do something, right? And if we delete lacrosse from the bill, or if we don't have that onus on it, then what's to say that they're not going to respond back in that same manner? And so at least what we have right now preserves the motivation of what the bill intent was, while also recognizing the needs of the community to say that this needs to get done in some manner or fashion, and we want to make sure that our constituents are heard through this process. So that's more so of the guidance. But again, we can talk offline in terms of what the amendment needs to look like in order to ensure that it gets done, hearing the concerns of the committee as well.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I did have a question about the policy that is developed in Section 2 of the reprint. So as I look at the bill, is there any requirement of like a timeline so that the sanction process goes timely? As we've had other conversations about like slow processes within the NIAA, and I'm going to just iterate my frustration with that once again. What I have noticed is that sometimes the NIAA will create a process that might take like 6 months, which is a significant amount of time when you're looking at a 9-month calendar for a school. So I'm just wondering what consideration there has been to make sure that this process is speedy and expedient, and how this bill ensures that is true.
Thank you so much, Chair Fabian Doñate, for the record. I would completely agree with your sentiments. In Section 5 of the bill, we put that the regulations as prescribed by Section 2 have to be completed by October 1st of 2025, so that there's a transparent process. And so that's the timeline that we expect if the bill gets signed to move forward.
Thank you. And just to be clear, Senator, so that would require that the NIAA adopt the regulations by October 1st, 2025. But then how long would that sanctioning process take for any other sport that decides to apply for this process? It seems to me that that's not clear. So would he be open to having a conversation then about just making sure we tighten that up a little bit so that there is like a period that is, 4 months or whatever it is, like 90 days, I think is sufficient. Just something, and we can work with the NIA to get some language of what they think would be sufficient. But I do not think that, a year long to sanction a sport makes sense. I think that they should be able to do it quite a bit faster.
Thank you so much, Vivian Doñate, for the record. That's an excellent recommendation, and I would agree with your sentiments. I think the other thing that we also have to realize is that there's current students right now that are enrolled in high school that perhaps would like to participate, as my co-presenters mentioned, at the collegiate level and so forth, but they're not afforded that same opportunity. And so time is of the essence for many of these students, and so that's why we want to make sure that it gets done in a timely fashion. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I see one more question. Assemblymember Koenig.
So the timeline says that they have to adopt the regulations, but you might want to add in there that they also sanction in that same timeline, and with the anticipation of starting in, I don't know if it's a spring sport or a fall sport. A lot of your big guys might want to play lacrosse and football, so you might do a spring sport. You have to figure that out, but you might want to say adopt the regulations and also sanction the sport for anticipated start time of a certain time, or it could drag out a lot longer.
Thank you. We can work with legal on that recommendation, Assemblymember. Thank you. I think that concludes our questioning at this time. I appreciate it. So with this time, we are going to go ahead and invite individuals wishing to testify in support. I know that we have a number of people here for support and opposition in today's bill. I just want to remind us that we need to keep our checks respectful and our clears concise. And so we are going to go ahead and limit it to 20 minutes. A reminder, no personal attacks on the sponsor or any other members of this committee. Each time you speak, please make sure you state and spell your name. And then we will be limiting it to 20 minutes support, 20 minutes opposition, and 20 minutes neutral. When you're ready, please begin.
My name is Dacia Persky, name spelled DACIAPERSKY, and I am proud to represent Vegas Strong Lacrosse and Bishop Gorman High School. As a Las Vegas native and as someone who grew up playing lacrosse in Las Vegas, I was fortunate to experience the sport at its peak. Thanks to the commitment of a few dedicated families in the Valley, the accessibility of the sport provided me with ample opportunities to grow as a player and an individual, eventually earning a scholarship to play lacrosse at the collegiate level. When I returned to Las Vegas in 2020, I was saddened to see the drastic decline in girls lacrosse, shrinking to just 5 total teams. Determined to reignite the sport's presence, I immersed myself in coaching and founded Vegas Strong Lacrosse, a 501c3 organization dedicated to making the game financially accessible and widely available. Through year-round programming and a commitment to inclusivity, we have seen firsthand the transformative impact of accessibility. In just 2 years, our club has grown from 40 players to over 120 players, spanning ages 10 to 18. We have sent 10 young women to play lacrosse at the collegiate level, with another 9 committed to NCAA programs next fall. Our local league, NVLS, has also experienced steady growth, with a 5% year-over-year increase since 2020, bringing us to 220 registered players this spring. As I read these statistics, I'm thrilled by the progress we have made as a community, but I also know that lacrosse is growing at only a fraction of its potential, largely due to the lack of school support and formal recognition. Just this year, 8 of my club athletes were denied the chance to sign their national letters of intent at their high schools simply because lacrosse is not recognized. Imagine the impact it could have on their peers to see them use this sport as a path to higher education and opportunity. Across the Valley, there are countless individuals like myself who work full-time jobs, raise families, and juggle other responsibilities, yet still devote their evenings and weekends to making the sport accessible for the many kids eager to play. Their passion fuels our growth, but passion alone is not enough. We need more help, more institutional support, and visibility. With surrounding states like California and Utah sanctioning high school lacrosse, more college lacrosse programs than ever before, a newly launched professional women's league, and lacrosse making its Olympic debut in 2028, the opportunity for girls lacrosse athletes are limitless. I truly believe now is the time to invest in the future of lacrosse in Nevada.
Thank you. I apologize. Your time is up. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Travis Azus, spelled A-Z-O-U-S, and I have the honor of serving as president of the Nevada Lacrosse South Girls League. I'm here today to urge you to take a vital step for our youth and our state to formally sanction high school lacrosse in Nevada. Lacrosse is one of the fastest growing sports in the country, yet many of our student athletes, both boys and girls, are lacking the support, recognition, and resources they need to compete on equal footing with their peers in other states. This is about more than just a sport. It is about access and opportunity. Sanctioning high school lacrosse in Nevada would lead to meaningful improvements for athletes, schools, and communities. For example, it will allow our athletes to compete for an official NIAA state title, as well as offering greater visibility and exposure for college recruitment. Sanctioning lacrosse would provide equal funding and support for every team in the league. It will ensure access to facilities to train and play, will ensure that certified coaching requirements and safety regulations are followed, and will also offer better structured schedules, divisions, and eligibility rules, ensuring fair play. Across the nation, college teams are actively recruiting lacrosse athletes and offering scholarships. These scholarships in turn make higher education even more accessible. In fact, in just the past 3 years, 19 female athletes from our league have been recruited and committed to playing lacrosse in college, many of them on scholarship. That's 19 lives changed through the sport they love. Imagine how many more could follow if Nevada provided the same level of recognition and infrastructure as other states. As president of the Nevada Lacrosse South, my mission is to promote, grow, govern, and protect the sport of lacrosse for the youth, middle school, and high school levels for female athletes. Each season, I work tirelessly alongside coaches, volunteers, and families to ensure our players have access to safe, organized, and competitive play. States across the country have already recognized the value and impact of high school lacrosse. Nevada should not be last. By sanctioning high school lacrosse...
Thank you so much for your comments. I appreciate it. I know you have written comments. Please make sure that you submit them to my committee staff too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Cutler, C-U-T-L-E-R, and I'm the president of the High Sierra Lacrosse League here in Northern Nevada, and I'm the head coach for the Galena Girls varsity team. I wanted to speak to some of the history and the timeline that was referenced as far as the sanctioning the sport. So 20 years ago, exactly 20 years ago, a group of high school boys started a lacrosse club at Galena, and they played the Truckee. They scrimmaged the Truckee boys. There were maybe like 30 kids involved with lacrosse 20 years ago. We've grown to almost over 600 high school athletes just in Northern Nevada alone. 15 years ago, the community reached out to the NIAA to investigate what it would look like to sanction the sport. 12 years ago, we started the formal process of trying to approach the NIAA to establish sanctioning. Over the last 10 years, I've been involved in that conversation with annual, biannual meetings with the NIAA and trying to find a path forward to what sanctioning is. And what has come to light through SB 305 is there is no process, right? Like, we have been unable to gain any ground in having the sport recognized. It's in 6 of the Washoe County School District schools. There's 10 schools in the north that have varsity boys and girls programs and JV programs as well. So we have done all the legwork, all the groundwork to develop this league and to develop the sport for the NIAA. And we meet roadblock after roadblock. And to your question, is there any confidence that they would sanction it if it's not specifically called out in the bill? No. After 10 years of engagement with the NIAA, I do not believe that they would sanction it if it's not specifically called out. So everything has been, we've done all the legwork to create a league, to train officials, to have equipment for students, to have bylaws. Like, we have made the Northern Nevada, the High Sierra Lacrosse League, as turnkey as possible so that we can simply hand it over to the NIAA when they're ready to adopt it. So I think that it's time to recognize all the hard work that's gone into the sport and take the next step to sanctioning it.
Thank you. Right on your 2 minutes. Good job. At this time, we'll go ahead and continue here in Carson City. And we are going to go on for about 3 more minutes. So if you can go quickly, I know we have a lot of people that want to testify, but then I'll go ahead and angle it to the crowd. I know we have people in Las Vegas. So if we have people in Las Vegas ready, if you could just start approaching now, that would be helpful. Thank you. Go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Ava Hill, Hill. Thank you for letting me come out today to be able to speak about my love for lacrosse. I'm a junior at Robert McQueen High School in Reno. Lacrosse has made a huge impact in my life. I've been playing lacrosse for 8.5 years now, starting in 3rd grade. Last year, at 16 years old, I was offered an athletic and academic scholarship to continue playing the sport I love at the University of Alabama, Huntsville. Lacrosse has been the one sport I've always loved. I participated in competitive swim, cross country, dance, alpine skiing, and ice hockey. But lacrosse has always been the one I come back to. I have coached youth box and field lacrosse in our community, and every kid I have coached has had a big smile on their face when playing the sport. I'm a goalie. The feeling of the girls rushing down the field trying to score a game-winning goal and you save it is a hard feeling to replicate. The adrenaline rush I feel when I make game-changing saves, clears, and ground balls is a feeling I love. Winning tournaments with my local travel teams are memories I'll never forget. I am extremely fortunate to take my skill to the next level after high school. All serious student athletes and their families make tough decisions and commitments to continue doing what they love. I believe that sanctioning lacrosse will help other student athletes in the state promote themselves and create opportunities for themselves that have not been provided until now. Thank you.
My name is Adeline Shum, Schum. I am a junior and I play for Galena High School. I also play basketball, so it's an interesting comparison because basketball is a sanctioned sport and lacrosse isn't. So it's quite a jump to go from my season of sanctioned sport to my season of non-sanctioned sports. In basketball, we have buses to and from our games. The cost isn't nearly as high. We also get access to schools' facilities without cost, and we get recognition for our participation in our sport. In lacrosse, we carpool to and from games. I've driven a car full of 6 girls to nearly every single away game that we have had because we do not have buses and those girls are unable to drive and do not have their parents to drive them. We fundraise. Yes, I fundraise in basketball, but lacrosse, we run 3 to 4 fundraisers because we have to pay to use the fields at the school. We have to pay all of our refs, and typically those costs are covered by the school when you play a sanctioned sport. And so we fundraise 3 to 4 times compared to the one time that I fundraise in basketball. So we're asking for a lot more money. I also pay over $500 a year in club fees, and that's not including my cost for my sticks, my cleat, my goggles, my mouth guard. None of that is included. So this sport is not very accessible to girls who are just wanting to start playing between the costs of gear and the cost of playing because we have to pay for our fields. We also have some of our trophies are in a shed that we store all of our gear in because we are not recognized or sanctioned. The players that worked so hard to earn those trophies should have them displayed in the front of the school with the rest of the trophies earned by the players who played for sanctioned sports.
Hi, my name is Jenna Riley. Thank you so much for giving me the time to speak about the sport I love today. I'm a junior at Bishop Manogue Catholic High School. And I've been playing lacrosse for 5 years. I also play varsity soccer, and I am a member of the High Sierra Avalanche Scream LA. I coach for High Sierra Lacrosse League, and I've also done the Bishop Manogue Lacrosse Camp in the summer. Lacrosse is an amazing sport that I had the opportunity to join in 7th grade when I took a break from soccer to try something new. I fell in love with every part of it, the intensity, the engagement, how fast-paced it is, and I love the community that I've been able to surround myself with. It's given me a chance to meet some of my best friends, make valuable connections with coaches, and I also have a little brother who is coming up from 6th grade this year, and I want him to be able to play high school lacrosse as a sanctioned sport. I realize that as a rising senior, I might not have the ability to see lacrosse be sanctioned in Nevada, but I hope for the girls I coach and for my brother that they will have the ability to ride buses to games and win trophies that can be displayed at school, as well as sign their letters along with the other sanctioned sports. Lacrosse has taught me so much as values such as teamwork, leadership, time management, strategy, and I think that as a sanctioned sport, it would increase involvement across Nevada, and I hope that everyone has the chance to get involved at the high school level with a sanctioned sport, be able to ride the bus, be able to sign their letters, and get letters at the varsity level. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and go to Las Vegas first. I know we have more in Carson, but I'm going to go ahead and go to Las Vegas first, and then we'll come back if we have time, okay? Go ahead and begin in Las Vegas.
Hello, my name is Barry Ferrick, Ferich. My son played lacrosse. He was lucky enough to play Little League lacrosse, and his high school was private, so they had a lacrosse team. I teach at a private middle school, and the kids there, they play lacrosse. They play Little League lacrosse, just like the other kids play football, Pop Warner football, they play youth soccer, and they play Little League baseball. And they go right from those organizations right into the high school sport that they love. For 10 years, I have had children that I've watched play that have been great lacrosse players, great athletes, and great kids. I have had to watch them cry because they know that they can't play the sport that they love at the high school they are zoned to go to. So they have a choice to be club at another high school where they don't know anybody except for just a lacrosse team, or they switch to another sport. The reason why I like lacrosse is that it's great both for boys and girls. Now, just specifically for boys, a lot of boys play football, but guess what? Some kids aren't big enough to play football and the coaches just blow them off. But lacrosse, you don't have to be a giant to play lacrosse. You just have to be a good athlete. So that's why I support this bill, and I think you should just call it the lax bill. And if any other sport wants to tag in behind it, that's fine. It's easy to say, well, the lax bill worked. We would like to add into that. Thank you, and I support it.
Thank you. Do I have anybody else in Las Vegas? If not, I know I have others here in Carson City. Okay, we'll do a cameras. We'll show the cameras in support in just a moment, but I'll go ahead and continue here in Carson City. Please begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Nolan Moore, M-O-O-R-E, and I am representing High Sierra Lacrosse. After playing 10 years of lacrosse in Reno, I believe that kids who want to play lacrosse in the area should be able to play without having to pay for everything, including field time, jerseys, gear, refs, and coaches. After playing 4 years of high school lacrosse at Bishop Manogue High School, we have had to play at the back of baseball fields and on dirt practice fields that make kids not want to play lacrosse. This takes away lots of athletes and decreases the competitive level of play and doesn't allow us to be recognized as much as sports such as football or baseball. Although I was recruited to play Division I lacrosse at the University of Detroit Mercy, I had to travel to many states that have sanctioned lacrosse because no one wanted to come to Nevada because it wasn't sanctioned. I want other kids in the future to have the opportunity to be seen and recruited from their home state, and this is why I'm in favor of Senate Bill 305. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elijah Peterson, and I am in support of the Senate Bill 305. I've been playing lacrosse for about 10 years, and as a player for the Bishop Manogue High School lacrosse team, we are 14-1 this year, with a good chance to compete for a state championship. But without it being sanctioned, it's not the same. Earlier this year, I won a state championship with football, and that was such an amazing experience, and I would love to experience this with my lacrosse team as well, which currently will not happen. As a team, we've all wanted to play more games and harder competition, but with the current obstacle of the state of Nevada not being sanctioned, we aren't allowed to play schools that are sanctioned. This prevents us from being seen as a legitimate team by many California and Utah schools. By passing this bill, not only would we be able to play those teams that are sanctioned, the teams in Nevada would be able to become stronger programs with the support of the Washoe County School District. I am in favor of this bill.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else wishing to testify in support. Is there anybody? I'm going to go ahead and go to the cameras because I know that there's people that are not speaking that are here to show support. So if you're here in support for lacrosse, can you please stand here in Carson City and in Las Vegas, and we'll have the cameras pan out. So go ahead and stand. I appreciate you all for not speaking because we don't have time for everyone today. So we do have a good amount of people. I'm seeing about, let the record reflect, we have about 15 people here in Carson City that are in support. And then in Las Vegas, I see probably another 15 to 20 people. So thank you so much for being in support of SB 305 at this time. And we do not, we can go to the phones. We do have 4 minutes left. AVH, is anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 305?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 305, please press *9 to join the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of this committee. I'm Kimberly Fergus. I rise in strong support of SB 305, and I ditto all the kids. Thank you.
Next caller.
Caller ending in 900. Please press *6 to unmute yourself and begin when ready.
Hello, thank you, Chair. This is Eric Cole, Las Vegas, Nevada. I am in strong support of lacrosse on the high school level. As a ex-high school lacrosse coach and also a son of the father of a son who played club and also went to college playing. I think it should be in the high school to give these kids an opportunity to play. So we are in strong support of it.
My name is Billy Morgan. I am a youth lacrosse coach here in Las Vegas for the Pirates lacrosse program. I just wanted to offer my support for this bill. I understand and see firsthand the impact that this sport has on our youth from the age 10 and under group all the way through high school. I would like to see this expanding for all the way through high school for the very immediate future and the long-term future of the sport in Nevada.
Chair, there are no additional callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. It's 1 minute to spare. We'll go ahead and go to the opposition. Is there anyone here wishing to testify in opposition to SB 305? Please begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, committee. Tess Opferman here on behalf of the Washoe County School District. We have had extensive conversations throughout session on this bill and worked hard in the Senate on an amendment to get this bill to a place that we can support it. Unfortunately, we must now speak in opposition to the bill as presented with the conceptual amendment. We are in full support of the idea that the NIAA create a process by which a sport can become a sanctioned sport in the state. This makes sense to us and frankly is long overdue. We worked hard to reach this amendment in the Senate and are in full support of the bill as currently written, reprint number 2. Regrettably, the conceptual amendment explicitly makes lacrosse a sanctioned sport. We are opposed to singling out any sport in NRS. We do not specify soccer, football, or other sanctioned sports in NRS, and we hold firmly that the lacrosse should not be singled out, thereby making it a super sport. Additionally, we support NIA sanctioning lacrosse and sports like it. As written, sanctioning lacrosse would have significant cost concerns to the Washoe County School District, around $2 million. We are limited by field space. We would need to purchase equipment, fund coaches, and staff. This is a very expensive endeavor for Washoe County School District, especially in a biennium where we are already have a budget shortfall. We envision a process where these considerations could be addressed rather than forced through by legislation. We ask that you move this bill as currently written and not amend it with the conceptual amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I had a follow-up question because I know that there was a conversation throughout the hearing about the transitory language. Would that be something that might be something you have to get back to me? Would that be something that Washoe County would be neutral with or good with?
Well, I'll get back to the school district and then I'll get back with the committee on that.
Thank you. At this time, I don't see anyone else here in Carson City. We'll go ahead and go to Las Vegas. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Tim Jackson, Jackson, current Executive Director for the NIAA. The NIAA is in full support of the language that the Senate Education Committee approved prior to the amendment. That language added to the regulation, that we recently passed by the NIAA Rules and Regulations Committee, which will be presented to the Board of Control June 2nd, provides a clear path forward for not just lacrosse, but for any future sport that the NIAA might have brought before it. The new regulation is a continuum of implementation process that did not exist. It accounts for established club sports, potentially transitioning to full sanctioning, as well as emergent sports that have no established infrastructure. The new regulation allows for any potential NIAA sanctioned sport to be brought forth to enter the sanctioning process anywhere along that continuum, depending on the level of development and involvement within the state of Nevada by the high schools already. This new conceptual amendment forces the NIAA to adopt a sport without the information necessary to ensure a level of statewide participation, district funding capabilities, facility capabilities, equipment, or any other support by the schools and districts across the Nevada. We continue to support more sports. And moving forward with the new regulation that we are putting in place, you will know where you are in that continuum from day one. And I welcome any questions or any concerns that any member has. I'm always available. Thank you.
Members, do I have any questions? Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. I actually wanted to ask the same question you asked just previously to the NIA. With the transitory language, would they be in a neutral position with the bill?
Tim Jackson, for the record. I do believe we would be neutral in that situation because at that point, if we were to bring the new regulation that the NIA passed and this continuum or the language that is being presented before us, then we could then work with the schools to say, where are you with the beginning of this sport? If lacrosse is going to be at the front of the line, which let's just be honest, if they have the infrastructure already there and they already have all these systems in place, they would move further along than, let's just say, I'm going to throw out a sport that was said earlier, field hockey. We have no infrastructure there. I do believe that that would warrant the conversation. And I think we could look at it from a neutral stance at that point, understanding that we would still need to consult with the schools and with the districts to make sure that they have the capabilities to handle it and what that timeline would look like. I think it's a very unique opportunity, but I think it needs to be developed a little bit more and make sure we know where we're at. I'm not a one for kicking the can down the road. I don't believe we need to do that. We need to know where we're at, where the schools are at, where the districts are at, and what capabilities they have. So I think it's a very unique conversation that we can have.
Assemblymember De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. Just had a quick question about timeline. So just to give you just a perspective here, say that the legislature did give the NIA a directive to take a look at lacrosse and to implement some kind of way of sanctioning the sport. What are we looking at in regards to how long this will take? What are some of the processes that you'll have to go through? And again, we don't want to keep these kids, from participating in a sport, and we want to see this happen, as I think Assemblymember Hansen also discussed earlier today. So, what are the realistic sort of timelines and periodic goals that would have to be looked at here?
So, in my short tenure here, I went back and I looked at the last two sports that were sanctioned by the NIAA. One was, excuse me, I just drew a blank. Flag football, and the other was girls wrestling. Flag football was started from scratch. There were no rules that existed, period. There was only one other state that even participated in some form of girls flag football. That was Florida. That took a total of 4 years to build because there was nothing there. Girls wrestling is going through the same process right now. That did not take nearly as long. Now, have we fully sanctioned it yet? No, we continue to keep it open because the number of girls participating is growing, and we haven't developed yet whether it's going to be 1 division or 5 divisions like we have in other sports. That is going to be up for sanctioning in June, that it will become an open division, which allows any school with any girls to compete for a state title. And that took 5 years. We had to have 1 year in there because of the COVID year. We lost a year there. Do I think that moved along at a good pace? No, I think it could have moved along a little quicker, but we didn't have the protocols in place that we're putting in now. So what I see here is I believe that lacrosse is further along in certain areas of the state. That does not mean that other areas of the state are not. We just don't know exactly who's playing it and where they're playing it. If the club team at Minogue is strictly Minogue kids, if the club team at Palo is strictly Palo Verde children, we have to make sure we have those schools identified so we know how many schools would be participating. Do I envision this taking as long as that? No, I do not. Do I want to put a set date on it? No, I don't, because I don't know what the sample is. I don't want to jump on that, but I do think we can look at that from a pragmatic standpoint to say, listen, we've got enough, let's move it forward. Or we can say, hold on a second, we can do it here in Northern Nevada. Maybe we'll bring Southern Nevada on in a different time. And that would allow us then to align the seasons, which is a very big concern for the NIAA. Not that we don't want lacrosse, that we need to align the seasons, because right now it is appearing, it's not identified in the bill, it's a girls sport and a boys sport, which means we have 2 competing field entities, and we have to make sure we put them in the right season. We also would like to align, if we did this, with California and Utah so that we provide those opportunities for cross-state play within a sanctioned sport, which I would think everyone would be in agreement to. So I think that we would have to look at where we are in each geographic region, who's participating, why they want to participate, at what levels, and then if they can afford it. So I don't think it's as easy as saying 90 days we're going to have lacrosse, because in essence, we may be able to say we'll have lacrosse in 90 days. The districts may not be able to meet that deadline because they don't have the infrastructure in place to meet it.
Yeah, thank you for that assessment. So you're saying that, just to get to the nuts and bolts of this, that even with a legislative directive, even if it is through NRS, that it would take, a matter of years in some cases, maybe not 4 years, but 2 years, 3 years to get something like this processed?
Tim Jackson for the record. Yeah, I do believe it would take more than a year. I don't see how we could put it in place without having some time to lead up to it. I'm just concerned as to the infrastructure that exists and what would be there. Now, that doesn't mean it can't exist. It just means we have to get there. We can put it into a status along that continuum of emerging sport, which gives them the permission to play as an organization within our state, which is what we did with flag football and we do with girls wrestling. Currently, girls wrestling isn't sanctioned, but they're emerging. It's considered what's called an emerging sport. They can go wrestle other states in other competitions because they have the status with us. We can put lacrosse into that status as we go through this, which would then allow those schools to develop their programs, go play in tournaments in California or Utah or wherever they wanted to as a fully participating entity within the NIAA, moving towards that sanctioning background. So there are a lot of levels to this that go beyond just saying, okay, you're sanctioned. Flag football wasn't sanctioned for those first few years. But if the teams wanted to go play in a tournament in another state, they were permitted to go do that. And the other state would call us and say, Nevada is flag football going through the sanctioning process. Yes. Do we have permission to play? Absolutely. And they would go and play. We have those relationships with all the schools on the West Coast in Section 7-8 and the rest of the NFHS, which is all the states in the union that allow those teams to participate. So they would open those doors up to those teams to participate.
Thank you. I have a question from Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you in Las Vegas. It seems the sense that this has been in existence for so long, and from one of my coaches in one of my districts alone where lacrosse is popular, since 2017. So we're talking 8 years already that kids have been playing in leagues, and there's evidence of how this process works, what's required, what's needed. I am puzzled as to why it would continue to take as long as you're saying it would take to set up this sport, which is really functioning without you right now. It just needs to be properly sanctioned to function.
I do understand that. And of course, the issue then becomes, I'm sorry, Tim Jackson for the record. The issue then becomes the infrastructure within the school districts to be able to meet those needs. The NIAA sanctions many sports that schools don't have. So we could come forward and say, we're going to sanction lacrosse. And then Clark County may say, we are not going to participate. But my concern is that if you put the word lacrosse into that regulation, are they then forced to participate in that? Or is it just simply us saying we're going to sanction it? I understand that. I also don't want to get into a situation where we say, yeah, we're going to sanction this without knowing where our schools are. I know that we have a lot of student athletes that showed up today, and I'm very happy that they're there. They show that there's a groundswell for this. But at the same time, there are 125 member schools. We just don't know exactly how many of them are participating or at what level of participation they can accommodate, or if their districts can afford to have that participation. Those are the questions we need to have answered. And I just don't know if I could put a timeline onto how quickly that could be turned around, nor would I ever want to paint the association into a corner saying we can do this in 90 days or we can do this in 6 months. We don't know that answer until we start delving into this. Now, why it hasn't been addressed so long, I do not know. I can't answer that question.
I'm just going to jump in there, Mr. Jackson. That's exactly what this body does. We do implement timelines. So I think the timeline is definitely coming. And the fact that it takes 4 years for a sport to be sanctioned is just beyond me. And that is more than the legislative process, which is 120 days. So I don't understand why the NIAA takes 4 years to sanction a sport. We can pass bills that impact hardworking Nevadans in 120 days. So clearly there's some issues with the NIAA. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Killian if you could clarify. I think Mr. Jackson stated that this may require schools to have lacrosse. Can you clarify that for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. Yes, I believe your statement is correct, Chair. The bill would require the NIAA to sanction lacrosse. There is no provision anywhere in the bill that would require any particular school to offer lacrosse. So I don't see a basis in the legislation that would impose any requirement on any school to offer lacrosse as a sport. Rather, NIAA would be required to sanction lacrosse, and schools would then be allowed to choose whether to participate or not, just as they do with any other sanctioned sport.
Thank you. At this time, I don't see any additional questions. At this time, is there anyone else here in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to SB 305? Seeing none, AVH, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 305, please press star 9 now to join the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go to neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? Seeing none, and I don't see any in Las Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Senate Bill 305, please press star 9 to join the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite the bill sponsor for any closing remarks. And if your co-presenters want to go, let me know.
Thank you, Chair, so much. Fabian Nyate for the record. I just want to thank the committee members, obviously, for allowing us the opportunity to participate today. Clearly, we have some work to do on the bill post of this hearing, but we're very excited just for the participation of our students that were able to come and tell their stories. And I think that we're going to definitely have some level of impact for many students, at least in the near term, of being able to participate. And I don't know if Mr. Speaker, or if you want to mention anything else.
Paul Speaker for the record. I think that the momentum of lacrosse can't be underscored more importantly. I mean, we're looking at colleges, we're looking at opportunities, fastest growing sport in the United States, and soon to be around the world with the adoption of the Olympics. I think we got to a place today where I was rather appalled that I'm sitting with a bunch of juniors and seniors that won't have the opportunity, appalled that their trophies are in a bin somewhere in the back of a warehouse. Very appalled that they couldn't sign their letters of intent in brethren with their colleagues and be celebrated in the gymnasiums like most traditional schools have. It's just appalling that for 20 years this gentleman Justin has been waiting to get his teams to play and be sanctioned and recognized. What I'm excited about is the reality of the language that the senator has put forward that does not include a mandate for schools to adopt. So all this is getting the politicians that for 12 years have blocked this to be sanctioned, getting them out of the way so that kids can actually say, hey, listen, I'll do a bake sale. You know, I'll stand in front of the grocery store with a tin cup and collect money. I'll do all the things that I have to do to make sure that I can get this sport into my school. And to recognize that there is this opportunity that is really a turnkey opportunity. All they have to do is say, okay, we'll sanction it, we'll regulate it, and these kids and their coaches will figure out a way. They've already figured out a way. They're practicing in broken glass schoolyards. So we just need to get to a place where you recognize that this is it's not a mandate. It's just an opportunity for to create a ramp where these kids can have the opportunity to share in all the things that we all shared in when we played sports in high school and in grade school.
Mark Riccio, for the record. I'm humbled and energized. I'm humbled by these young athletes, their coaches, their parents, their caregivers, for the dedication and commitment they put to sport and how it affects their lives. And I'm also humbled by this body holding those to account and listening to your constituents. And I'm just grateful to be a part of that. USA Lacrosse is grateful to be a part of that. And thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on SB 305. And thank you to everyone who came to stick up for a cause. This hearing may be over, but we will keep the ball in play until it eventually will get to a work session sometime later next week before the deadline. At this time, we will go ahead and move on to the last item on our agenda, which is public comment. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in public comment? I don't see any. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in public comment? I also don't see any. AVH, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, our public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers choosing to comment at this time.
Thank you. With that, members, any comments before we close today's hearing? Assembly Member DeLong, go ahead. Wait, Mike, please.
Sure. I dropped the ball. I apologize. Should the interim education committee consider a study on the performance of the NIAA?
That's a great comment and something we can look into. So we'll continue to take that conversation offline. It seems that there is a number of concerns with the NIAA at this point, given many conversations in this committee. Members, any additional questions? Doesn't appear that there are any. I would like to note that our secretary has two beautiful daughters that he brought to the basketball game. They were very disappointed to see the Elephants lose, or the Elephants win, and the Donkeys lose. They also missed my epic free throw. So I appreciate that. Assemblymember Koenig was so nice to foul me. He pushed me to the floor and I flopped, and it was really tough. But at the end of the day, we did come out. So thank you, Secretary Lidsley, for that. And with that, I will go ahead and close the hearing and note that we have a work session this Thursday. Thank you.